Hey everyone, this is Delcar's Dungeon Mastery. Dig through your dice bag, find your mud dice, make sure they're colored in appropriately, because we're going old school. We are going to Mystara, by way of a review of the 5th edition book by the legendary Mr. Welch. You know, the guy that can't do all those things, but he does them anyway. So, let's belly up to the game table, take a look at this, see what it's about, see if it's worth your time. Spoilers. I think it is. You can get it for free. Let's roll. My friends, I have been looking forward to getting my hands on this book more than any book since the Unearthed Arcana. Yeah, the original Unearthed Arcana. I go back that far. So, what is this all about? What is it? Well, let me get to that. Now, as I mentioned, it is available free as a PDF. I wanted to wait till I had it in my hot little hands in the form of a printout. And fortunately for all of us, the print-on-demand PDFs optimized for that are also available at the same spot. So, link will be in the description. Head over to RPG MP3, grab it, download it, take a look at it. I opted for hardback, as you can see. Real nice print. Looks every bit as good as anything put out by the world's most over-marketed role-playing game. And, yeah, I don't know what much more to say there is. The binding is good. There's a little bit of, I don't know what to call it. I don't know what the technical term is. We lost some of the gutter, some of the pages you kind of have to mush open to see everything. But it is not a problem. And listen, with the state of some of my 4th edition GURPS books falling apart the week I bought them, and I've had some crappy books before, so hats off to Mr. Welch for the setup, and great job by Lulu. I got 2 identical hardbacks, and they came out great. They will probably last for ages. As you expect from a modern RPG book, full gloss pages, heavyweight paper, full color maps. Now, if the maps are a little small to be useful, these are the maps you can get on the Atlas of Mystara website. Mr. Welch has worked closely with the folks at the Vaults of Pandius, as well as the folks at the Atlas, and everything you need. This puts it all on your fingertips. There is loads more that you can reach in for. So again, on this part of the review, I'm going to concentrate on the physical book. Layout is good. Table of contents, index, everything is what I expect. At first, I had a little bit of misgivings is too strong a word. I was wondering why he would lead with the timeline into the nations and work your way through that way, but looking at it from the point of view of a player or somebody who doesn't know a damn thing about Mystara, it works real well, actually. So as you dig deeper in, you go, oh, okay. Oh, this nation's interesting. Let me flip forward. Let me look at the races. Let me find out who lives there. What can I do? And then you look at the classes or the archetypes, because there are unique classes and archetypes that are culturally specific. Again, right now, let's talk about the book. Lulu did a great job. Welch did a great job on layout. Editors did good work. I almost forgot. Here is the Lulu settings and the price as of the time I ordered it. All right, so you might ask, why Mystara? Well, Mystara's high magic. You've got fleets of airships, you've got gnomish flying city, you've got a nation full of mages, you've got another nation where you have to be a mage to have a position of power. You also have easy drop-in, especially for newer players, you've got recognizable human cultures. The Ethengar steppes, you've got your Mongol warriors. They're, your Viking nations. You've got 3 Viking nations that roughly correspond to the Swedes, the Norwegians, and the Danes from back in the day. You've got your, drawing a blank, you've got your 2 empires. One of them, the Alphatians, they're ones with the airships, have kind of artistically, Rubus went with a Byzantine-ish look, and I love it. I would have gone Persian, whatever. And Thyacians, who Mr. Welch leaned hard into the Roman influences, and they look great. and they feel great. They're an empire that might be on its retracting a little, but they have never forgotten their former glory. Their legions are still strong, and their gladiator events are still going wild. Now, because of that, you could have some really cool party compositions. Now, not only was Mystara doing anthropomorphic races before anybody else had even started doing them, you've got your Rakasta, your Lupin, your Tortles, your Phanatons, all here in the main book. And because of all these different cultures and these countries that all mesh together and have a history together and all feel like they belong together, better than... It pains me a little to say, as an old Greyhawk grognard, Greyhawk did pulled some of the same stunts. Sometimes the countries never meshed quite well together. In Mystara, while I don't pretend to understand the climate and what is what line of latitude and how that works with the suction in the hollow world, yeah, magic, you've got some cool stuff. So you could have your party with an ex-gladiator who's got the unlikely thing and he's got it back for her, the Centaurian in the party, because they're both Thaetian after all. You've got an Ethengar archer, on his horse, the crazy Northlander rune mage warlock woman, the Alphatian wizard that claims to own but probably stole his flying ship from his father that they cruise around in. Or, how's this for you? The father-daughter team that's literally a dwarf and a human. Yes, you heard me. It works the other way too. So, they fall in with a shadow elf. He's pretending to be a sea elf since nobody really knows the shadow elves exist, and he's arguably spying for his people, but he's finding out that, hey, they have been telling me an awful lot of lies. And then their halfling friend, who's on the traditional coming-of-age adventure. Yeah, these halflings are not the scouring of the Shire halflings. These halflings are hippity-hoppity, get off my property, and have ejected multiple would-be rulers. So, again, you've got Alphatia and Thyadis, the two empires who are at each other's throats, right now on the Isle of Dawn. Otherwise, it's mostly a Cold War. You've got an orc warlord who's united the different humanoid clans. You've got the Golden Khan, who's united all the tribes of Ethengar, itching for a fight. You've got the Wizards of Glantry. Now, they are the biggest exporters of magic wands and items in the known world. They also have this bad habit of dissecting dwarves and halflings to try and figure out why they resist magic. And, oh, by the way, clerics, illegal. So kind of a reverse inquisition there. And, Shadow Elves, as I just hinted at, they're plotting to get their place back in the sun, regardless of what the other elves might say about it. How's that going to go? Don't know. Add a gnomish flying city that they have biplanes for defense, and these are Tinker Gnomes done right. And, are you interested yet? On to the book. All right, I tried to do this with the book in hand. I could not figure it out, so we're just going to go brief. I do have a slightly more detailed where I still quickly, but I flip page to page. Since the PDF's available for download, I can't imagine Mr. Welch will mind. Please let me know. I flip page by page. I'll put that up as a separate video. So, boom, very simple, very useful table of contents. I'm actually going to full screen that for your purposes, so you know for our purposes, so you know what you're looking at. Massive credit to these great artists that are all involved in the project, and every single one of them got paid out of Mr. Welch's pocket. So if you download this, I encourage you not only to help him, recoup everything he poured into this. He'll never recoup the amount of time he poured into it, but let's keep the artists paid so we can get the Dungeon Master's book, shall we? Full page map of the known world of Mystara. I definitely recommend you go to the Mystara Atlas to get a better look at a scrollable map. Our timeline of events from 5000 before crowning to 1000 AC, which is present day. Each of the nations gets a 2-page summary and a map. And that is each of the nations of the known world, including things like the gnomish city of Serene and the Shadow Elf city, the City of Stars. Quick summary of the different interesting or main cities of Mystara. Centers of learning, both wizard and bardic. Locations of ill repute, just a quick blurb to wet your whistle for adventure, and not enough here for spoilers. King Oberon and Queen Titania and their court are very real movers and shakers, and it makes my Falconstinian heart dance a little bit because I miss that campaign. The Fighting Pits of Thyattis, each of the schools of gladiators has their own style, represented later in the book by feats. The Isle of Dawn is where the Cold War between Thyattis and Alphatia threatens to go hot. The Isle of Dread is the granddaddy of all sandbox games, modules, and would be a great place to start your campaign. The world below, yes, they have their own Underdark. It's far cooler. Crimes and Punishments. Check the link below. There is a wonderful podcast. It's wonderful regardless who's guesting on it, but the specific episode I will link is when Mr. Welch was on the Black Pants Legion podcast, and one of the things that came up is somebody had a strange obsession with one of these punishments. They wanted to be punished. I'll let him tell the story. All right, calendar. It is different for different cultures, obviously. They have different days of the week depending on what your culture is and language. You've got a little bit of astrology here. I don't know if elf chicks follow their astrological signs or not. Holidays of the known world. I absolutely love, from the point of view of the game master, having this in one spot at my fingertips. And there's a lot of them. And it's awesome. Mystaran heads of state, minus stats. You can stat them out for your specific for the power level of your campaign. Mystara's most wanted. A couple of these are kind of spoilery, but okay. I mean, if there's a bounty on them, there's a bounty on them. Dread Creatures of Mystara. This is where I miss the stats, but you could probably do your mojo with it. Coins of the known world. Yes, a gold piece is not a gold piece is not a gold piece. So, time to screw the players at the moneylenders. Other factions that are, well, most of them are associated with a particular kingdom, but membership is not automatic. Remember what I said about the halflings? Yeah, don't mess with the halflings. They can be quite badass. Races of Mystara. There is, for all intents and purposes, one dwarven subrace and one gnomish subrace that you can play. Dwarves do not use arcane magic in Mystara. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200 gold pieces. You will not be a dwarven sorcerer. You will not be a dwarven wizard. You have other things to make up for it. They are completely, arcane magic free, with the exception of what is quite simply known as a rot dwarf. They're crazy. They're cursed. They're probably immortal, and they're not to be messed with. So if you want to play a wizard, a short-bearded wizard, you're not going to be a dwarf. Elves sleep. Thank you. Appreciate that. But there's also elven subraces. The shadow elves I mentioned before are the ones that live underground. They are not drow. They are not even all that edgy. They are pretty darn cool. You've got your Sylvan. You've got your Vialia. Sorry. Your water elves. I think I used sea elf earlier, and that was misspoke. And the Belcadese elves. Human ethnicities, Alphatians. Yes, they literally have blue-toned skin. That was not me being weird in the slideshow earlier. And lots of different human ethnicities. Some of them have specific languages. Stat-wise, I don't really think there is any difference between the different human cultures, ethnicities. Of special note, and I'm going to hit that full screen, as mentioned before, there are no half races. Oops. There are no half races. You can have your Elrons, you can have your Aragorns, where you're humans with elvish blood in the bloodline, or elves with human blood in the bloodline. And you can talk to your DM and say, well, can my mom be a whatever? Well, that depends. Because the daughters match the mother and sons match the father, which again gives me some Falkenstein vibes on the dwarves. And very important here, there are no tieflings, Ganassi, Aasimar, or Dragonborn. I could see Ganassi being slipped in. There's a couple of places where there is almost a direct connection to a couple of the elemental planes. But tieflings and Aasimar in particular, the outer planes and the lower planes are cut off from Mystara. The immortals don't allow the gods in, and doubly so for the demons and devils. So, Alphatian Common and Thaiatian Common are mutually exclusive of each other. Again, there's two big daddy empires that have had it out numerous times. So, all right. Once again, Mystara was doing anthropomorphic races long before anybody else even considered it. The Lupin are dog-like. The Phanatons are flying squirrel raccoons. The Rakasta are, better than Tabaxi. And the Shay. The Shay are immortal. Well, if your character can still die, you just go back and reincarnate. The Tortles are originally from Mystara, yet another case of the Forgotten Realms assimilating. Classes of Mystara. Barbarians, most of the nations are moving towards civilized. You'll notice where at a glance you might think that for instance, the tattooed, naked, Maori-style warriors, the Toa Makai, would be barbarians. They are not barbarians. They are civilized people. The pirate reavers, however, are barbarians. And there are still barbarians in the little nooks and crannies of the world. Bards. I absolutely love the two new bardic colleges that he has put in here. The College of the Islands, specific for our Erendi friends, the Polynesian folks, and the College of Philosophy. You too can be a stand-up bullshitter. Clerics tend to follow pantheons, or spheres as spheres. Sphere of entropy, sphere of energy, sphere of matter, sphere of thought, sphere of time. Pantheon worship is standard practice. Some clerics do devote themselves to a particular immortal. You do have druids, and there is a druidic circle specific for the dervishes of the desert sands. Fighters, you've got some very cool archetypes. The Braves of Etrugan, Thaiatian Centaurians, Ethengar Horse Warriors, the Galaglass of Glantry, Gallants, your swashbuckler, the Toa Makai, as I mentioned, and Armigers. Armigers are Kensai with the serial numbers filed off. You devote yourself to one weapon and mastery of that weapon. Monks are more commonly known as mystics in Mystara. Paladins, you've got two new orders specific to the setting. The Order of the Griffin, which are, you'll see in a moment, Polish wing hussars in look and badassery. And the Heldonic Knights. They're, just warmongering paladins. I mean, I hate to say just. You've got foresters and bounty hunters as new archetypes for rangers. And you've got rakes, which is more of a con artist style rogue. And troubleshooters, which is a professional trap buster. More of a legit trap buster than a old school thief. There are only two known forms of sorcery in Mystara. Disciples of the Radiance, found in Glantry, yes, radiation sorcerers, and Wokanai, which channel pure primal magic. Those, you go for a shamanic witch doctor among the humanoid tribes, spooky shaman kind of feel with them. Warlocks. There are some cool warlock patrons specific to Mystara. You've got the Volva, the wise woman, who are the protectors of runic lore, there for the three Viking cultures. The spirit shaman of Ethengar, who are directly in contact with the spirit world. The Archfey, you literally will, as I mentioned, have to go ask Oberon, hey, can we make a deal? And then, well, There are some dark powers you can warlock it up with. And there is the great old one. That path madness lies, my friends. You've got new subs of wizards, tree keepers, which is a little bit druid. Merchant princes of Mithridat and Derican have a lot of practical money-making, money-tallying magic. It's actually a very cool archetype. And fire wizards, which are very specialized. And then there are Glantry's secret crafts. It goes into great detail here. They all seem pretty cool. I absolutely love that the Brave Count's Coup gets a spirit die that he can add to attacks or damage or saving throws, and it gets progressively better as he goes. It is a fighter that is encouraged to wear light or no armor. Likewise, the... Come on. I kind of wish you broke these down by class, Mr. Welch, but was not my decision. The Toa Makai is also... let's see. To use the Haka, you have to be wearing no armor or light armor and using simple weapons. The Haka have some powerful effects. So you've got your different shamans. You've got your Reaver, that's the barbarian. The Rake is the con artist style rogue. Shamans specific to different races. All of these are very flavorful. All of them fit very well in their particular culture. And all of them make me excited to play. I especially want to play a stand-up philosopher. All right, so you've got backgrounds that are specific to the world, including the Krondar, which is the beat cop for the Halfling 5 Shires. Mixed blood is the specific background if you happen to want to be the parent of two different, or child of two different races. There's, suggested characteristics. Also, because there are no half-orcs, all you jerks that got me to watch Goblin Slayer, do with that what you will. All right, slaves. Slavery is a real deal in Mystara, and busting slave rings is always a good adventure, always a good rescue, always a good, just a good hook. And when there's slavers out there, it's in their best interest to take people alive, not necessarily beat your characters to death. So there are feats, you've got your racial abilities for the Hin, you've got your different schools of gladiator combat. Again, I've become a big fan of Rubus in a very short amount of time. So you've got your gladiator schools, and then it goes into the Immortals of Mystara. Each of them gets their own write-up, talks about which sphere they're affiliated with, and what their domains are. There's not art for each and every immortal, but they can change the way they appear to their followers, so it would be kind of, I don't want to say moot, but... Specifics for the different domains. Again, most clerics will be affiliated with a sphere, not with a particular immortal, but that's not a hard and fast rule. All right, a quick look. This is representative of Glantry, which is a Venice-esque city of magic. Glantry exports most of the magic items out in the world, so you will notice that magic items do not normally recharge. Wands using the alternate rules found on page 144. Other items have up to 4 times the maximum number of charges they would normally possess, and then they burn out. As an old school player, I kind of like this better anyway. There are some restrictions on magic, but it is a high magic setting. The Radiance is... well, it's the Radiance. It's radiation. Secret magical crafts, prestige classes. These are all very cool, but there are a lot of, some of them are very sit at home and make stuff. So, possibly best for NPCs. Some of the other ones are really powerful. Nordic rune magic, if you're willing to risk death and pull on an Odin-style spirit quest, you have a opportunity to give up some constitution permanently and get some magic abilities by nature of a rune. And if you roll well, you might even get to pick the rune. But you might not. Spells of Mystara. There are some great spells here that fit very well, and the spells section I've read through pretty deeply, and everything seems very balanced. And it's very useful. Nothing game breaking. Some things that some very practical, good idea spells that actually should have been in the basic rules. Goods and services. Again, this is a real exciting section for me as a game master because I love having this kind of stuff at my fingertips. Who exports what? Who imports what? Rough ideas of how easy it is to get a magic item. Where you can go to trade. How much things cost. What the different guilds specialize in. Entertainment. The Alphatians love their game of hardball. It's not quite Blood Bowl. It's kind of weird. And the Phaeacians love their gladiator games. Jousting is all over the known world. We've got rules here for the super heavy armor that is impractical for anything but jousting. And then you've got several pages, almost 20 pages, of what I classify as handouts specific to different shops and places in Mystara. All right, I feel like I've spent a lot of time telling you what it is, and I did call this a review. I think the layout is great. I think the information there is everything you need to get started. The good news is there is a ton of resources out there. The Vaults of Pandius, the Atlas of Mystara, the Gazetteers are available on DriveThruRPG. My recommendation for you is if you thumb through this PDF, go, you know what? I want to run a game in Mystara. Find which nation is of interest to you. Go to Mr. Welch's channel. Links will be below. Find his video on that nation. Watch that, listen to that, dive in, go get the Gazetteer. You've got your big blown up detail map. You've got your information. Now be aware, the Gazetteers, with the exception of the Empire's box set, if you can get the box set, get it, but it's PDF now. With the exception of the Empire's, is all for basic Dungeons and Dragons. Any DM worthy of the title will be able to use information out of it one way or the other. Just, I want to put that out there. It goes into much more detail than you're able to fit in this book because of the scope of the book. Obviously, I heartily recommend it. You literally have nothing to lose. It is free. It is better put together than a lot of commercial product that is put out officially in the world's most well-marketed role-playing game. And it's a labor of love, and it shows. I mentioned in the beginning, I got 2 copies of the hardback because I threw one at my DM because I wanted to play in this damn setting. And as an old Greyhawk grognard, I'm often fond of saying anything that's not the Forgotten Realms is good anyway, but Mystara I have been won over to. Take a look at it. Convince your players. Some people aren't going to want to give up their tieflings, but this setting is every bit as cosmopolitan, every bit as high magic. If they like Eberron, tell them about the Alphatian airships, tell them about the old magic, tell them about the mystery of Blackmoor and the devastation. If they're power gamers, explain to them that they have a shot at true immortality. They can rise and join the ranks of the immortals themselves. If they're role players, my gosh, there are so many opportunities. If you're interested as a dungeon master in presenting a world that is on the cusp of war, man, I touched on it at the beginning. You've got an orc warlord, a golden Khan, and 2 empires that are getting ready to duke it out. You could have fantasy World War I break out at any time. Hands down, I heartily recommend it. This is my 3rd or 4th attempt at this review because they were getting longer, they were getting rambly, they were getting disjointed because I've been so enthusiastic. So I encourage you to check it out. Links are going to be below. RPG MP3 is the main home for the book. And, yeah, man, I don't know what else to tell you. Don't take my word for it. Go download it. Read it for yourself. Have fun.